Introducing the low-cost Shock Bleeder by 3Built Motorsports. Our Shock Bleeder is a complete solution for removing air from within your shock after servicing. It includes an oil reservoir, two-way vacuum and air pressure valve, a dual-function gauge, and a safety pressure relief valve. Also included is an 1/8 inch fitting for KTM shocks, a universal 1/8 inch fitting for your vacuum pump, and a 1/4 inch fitting for your air compressor. To get started, install the universal 1/8 inch fitting on your vacuum pump. Then attach the vacuum hose from the Shock Bleeder. Next, install your air compressor fitting to the air line from the Shock Bleeder. Set your compressor's pressure regulator to 45 psi and connect the hose from the Shock Bleeder to your compressor. Now we will fill the reservoir with shock oil. Flip the valve to vacuum. Remove the cap from the fill hose and insert it into the shock bottle. Turn on the vacuum pump and wait for the oil to fill the reservoir. When the bottle is nearly empty, flip the valve to the neutral position, which closes off the vacuum. Allow the remaining vacuum to pull in the remaining oil. When finished, remove the fill hose and cap it so oil does not leak out. To degas the shock oil, flip the valve to vacuum again and wait a couple of minutes or until foaming stops. Prepare the shock for filling. Remove the spring, carefully remove the nitrogen filling bolt. Loosen the rebound and compression adjusters. Drain the shock oil and service the shock as necessary. Finally, mount the shock in a vise to simplify the following steps. Install the 1/8 inch fitting on the shock's fill port using a 4mm L wrench, also known as a hex key or Allen wrench. Then attach the Shock Bleeder's fill hose to the shock. Flip the valve to vacuum if it is not already there, and turn on the pump. Allow the vacuum pump to run for a couple of minutes or until oil stops flowing. On your KTM's WP shock, you must push the PDS piston to the top using a tool that fits through the nitrogen fill port. Once it stops, mark the depth with tape. Then add a new piece of tape 10mm closer to the tip of the tool. This will be the PDS piston set point once filling is complete. You are now ready to fill the shock with oil. Slowly flip the valve to the compressed air side. The shock will fill with oil and the shaft will extend. Make sure there is clearance below the shaft for it to fully extend. A few seconds after the shaft is fully extended, flip the valve to vacuum again. Allow it to drain the oil from the shock for a few minutes. This ensures there is no trapped air in the shock. Now, flip the valve to compressed air to allow the final oil fill. Once complete, disconnect the air compressor line and check that the valve is pointing to the compressor side. This will balance the air pressure in the reservoir with the atmospheric pressure, and the gauge will read 0. The PDS piston will be at the bottom and needs to be pushed back to the correct position. Next, remove the shock bleeder fill hose and cap it. Remove the 1/8 inch fitting from the shock and install the factory bolt. Filling is now complete. The shock bleeder by 3Built Motorsports can be purchased at www.3builtmoto.com.